We are live. Ryan Hollins.
What's going on,
my
brother?
Man. Good to have you here. How's it feel to be in the O?
Good, man. Good. It's been a long time coming, man. We've been talking about this for a minute, right?
Yeah, I know. It's like a long time, but kind of quick at the same time. It feels like you were just in Orlando last season. And I remember that was the first time I actually met you in person was when you were in Orlando. Because we've always did podcasts and we always interacted and you've always helped out so much. But when you were there in Orlando, I was like, man. Honestly, my first reaction was how tall you were. Honestly, you forget because we always do podcasts for sitting down. Like, you're a legit 7-footer. But other than that, that was my first time meeting you. So this is like, it's good to be back. I feel this time is like Rocky versus Apollo the second time. I just feel prepared.
You're growing, bro. Every year, I'm seeing you. Your content's growing. Your reach is growing. You're reaching out for different ideas. You're making it happen, brother.
I appreciate it. You've helped me so much. I mean, that goes without saying. You already know. So everything you do, from content, the way you carry yourself, the advice you constantly give me. Every time I've wanted to call you at night, you always answer. So it's really much appreciated. So this podcast
appreciate
is
it, man.
more than you know, bro.
Hey, you know what? You doing the work. You doing the work. That's the hard part. A lot of people say, "Oh, I want to do it. I want to hop in. I want to be in this." Well, you're gonna do the work because it takes a while. I see you doing the work, man. So, hey, it pays off.
Before we continue this podcast, it is brought to you by Foodie by Nature. The beautiful people by Foodie by Nature really produced such a great product. It is sea moss. If you haven't heard of it, look into it. All natural, great essential vitamins and minerals. There's 8 different flavors, and it truly tastes good. So check it out, Foodie by Nature. Saying that the NBA is the most talked about sport. So like this season in particular just feels like there's so many different storylines. You have Victor Wembanyama, who's the most hyped prospect since LeBron. And like legitimately, like I understand why. It's not just all the hype for no reason. You have Steph Curry, you have LeBron's final chapter, you have Dame to the Bucks, you have the Boston Celtics who look stacked. Do you feel like this season just feels a little extra special?
I feel like the special thing about this season is the parity. I don't think we thought we had parity last year. I don't think you get a night off. We just got a chance to see Victor in San Antonio. I'm glad you brought it up. I'm looking at that team. I don't think they're going to lose the way you think they'll lose. I think Victor just being available and being there, they have more. They're going to be a lot more competitive than what you think they are. I don't see many nights off. You know, maybe Portland is in a bit of a rebuild. There are a couple teams figuring things out, but you just don't have the nights off. And, you know, Max, we talked about this, like there's a different level of young guy coming into their own. And, you know, we're seeing stacked teams, but these young bulls are ready. And then you got to think, there's a couple guys that we had injured, you know, that you're going to have a chance to see. Like, hey, man, like, Zion and the Pelicans is a whole different Pelicans team. Like, you're not getting nights off. So I think the biggest story is obviously star power. We're going to gravitate to the stars. But I think the parity in just like every game, you kind of got something going. Like, you got to compete. You got to find a way because it's not a night off.
Yeah. For just very quickly with Victor, we obviously look at the height. He's 7'4". He could do everything. They say he's like an alien. LeBron says he's like not even a unicorn. This guy's an alien. But it seems like, just like you said, the overall impact of just him being there, his presence, does it feel like it's contagious already? Like San Antonio, all the other players step it up because, like, we got Victor. Does it feel like that?
It's a buzz in the air in San Antonio.
So that's real. That's real.
Buzz in the air in San Antonio. I'm telling you right now, what he's bringing, their players are a little more energized, bringing energy. The commentators have excitement. Fans are showing up. Like, and I'm kind of getting PTSD from it, honestly, because the majority of my career, if not the entirety of it, San Antonio was the staple of excellence in the NBA.
People forget about that.
They were a staple. So now when you have Wembanyama bring that energy back, and then like Spurs basketball, like hard back cuts, you know, their transition defense amazing. They execute like they're kind of like looking like that, and you know when guys are back cutting, and you got a shooter on the wing or a guy bringing attention. Now all those plays look a little bit more dangerous. This isn't kind of DeJounte Murray and LaMarcus Aldridge, great players in their own regard. This dude is
generational.
Even if he doesn't make it to what you think he's going to make it to, his impact on the game right now is unbelievable. He can move, he can shoot, he's aggressive, he's got to have weight, he's got to have feel, he's going to get knocked in the mouth. Those things are going to happen, but even just bare strip the cupboard, that boy makes an impact.
It seems like he has the right approach, right? Like, you don't want to take too much away from preseason and everything, but there's just some things you could see. It's like, okay, not only did he get drafted by San Antonio, which is one of the staples, not only does he have Greg Pop in his corner, he has Tim in his corner, he has Manu and Tony. They're great with foreign players. They're great with international players and developing them. It just seems like he is a sponge. Like, it doesn't seem like he's too confident, like too cocky. It doesn't seem like he's full of himself. It seems like he just has the right approach to learn, and that's scary.
That's easily the most scary thing is the approach is there, the community's there for international players. I'll give you this, like, you're not going to see a guy working on defensive slides and getting hit in the chest and doing, like, you're not going to see guys taking pride in yoga. When's the last, have you ever seen an American player take pride in yoga?
The only person I know is Joe Johnson. He's not even elite.
Hey, we were laughing at the young fella for doing the splits, going, see, you're 7'5", big fella. You got to be mindful of hitting the splits on camera, do that behind it. But, yeah, pride in that. That's scary because those are the things he's going to need. And I was a tall, skinny guy in the league. So they see you, you're lighter skin, you're skinny, you play hard, you jump. They're going to test your toughness. He seems to kind of like embrace that approach. And I would say that watching him do that leaves me with promise. Because like who are you till we hit you? Now, my biggest challenge for him is how do we see Wemby match up with LeBron? How do we see Wemby match up with Kevin Durant? Is he gonna? We saw him block Wiggins a couple of. When he blocks a KD jump shot, we go, ooh.
Yeah.
Okay. Now Giannis is the test. When Giannis comes downhill, puts that shoulder in his chest.
Or Jokic, yeah.
I think he's gonna be more equipped. He's gonna be put in the rim right now. In my opinion, yeah. But I think there's an effect because even when you bump him off, bro, that's 8 feet.
Yeah, he can cover that ground immediately.
That's 8 feet.
Yeah.
You know what 8 feet looks like? That's our ceilings in here. That's 8 feet.
Yeah, it makes no sense. I've never seen a player go viral for defensive slides. They posted him doing defensive slides, and like his arm length doesn't look real. It seems like in 2K when people hack the game sometimes and they mess with the length, the arm length. That's what it looked like. I've never seen someone go viral doing defensive slides. That's how I was like, yeah, this guy's different.
I don't know where this Victor thing's gonna end up, where it's gonna go. My prayer is that it's not that what if story or like, man, could have been, not what if or could have been. But I'm the most intrigued that LeBron intrigued me because it was like, with the questions with LeBron was, is he a point guard? Is he a real point? Can he handle the ball in his hand? Is he really the expectation? With him, it's, we haven't seen anything like this. Like, he's legit on the wing and it's not a problem. He legit came off a pick and roll, crossed over, got to the midi. Like, is he really going to be that? Is that really going to work? Because now I don't know how to guard you.
Right. Yeah, no, I'm so excited. You mentioned Zion as well. We got to see him play here in Orlando in the preseason. He had 4 steals in the first quarter. And like that's something people don't think about. But that's effort, that's energy in a preseason game. We know how talented he is. It's his effort taking care of his body, his approach to the game. And it seems like it is. So there's so many things to look forward to. So now that the season's officially here, obviously we're here in Orlando, Houston Rockets, Orlando Magic. I wanted to get your predictions for some of the seasons. For the season, who you have winning everything. So when you look at this season, is there a clear-cut favorite to win the title? Is it Denver running it back? Is it Boston Celtics adding Drew Holiday? Is it the Milwaukee Bucks adding Dame? Do you see the Lakers? Do you see the Warriors? Is there a clear-cut favorite for you to win the title?
Nah, it's not like before. It's not when you had Shaq and Kobe's Lakers or you had the Warriors. Like, I would say Denver, who we got to see last night, looked really good. But even prior to that, I would lean on them just because Mike Malone, how tough they are, they're defensive minded. You can't jump over a phone book, but he's just consistent. It's not flashy.
Yeah.
They kind of like they run their system. They're hard to guard, and they're just like they're committed. They're just a solid basketball team. Now, barring injury, that could mean a lot, but I think the way that Jokic plays, there's like longevity in the net. You're not seeing him trying to dunk the basketball. He's not a high flyer. He's not zipping up and down the floor. As long as his mind is right, that is going to be a tough cover. Now, obviously, we got our eyes on Phoenix. We got our eyes on Milwaukee, right? Yeah. We got our eyes on Boston. Those guys are like, yeah, they're a threat if they put it together. But right now, I think without a doubt, we still got to lean on Denver. And I was fighting Denver. You hearing me say this, it just shows you I'm transparent. I was fighting Denver, but they are what they say they are.
I had a bet with B. Wood. He reminded me. He is the first person to tell me, we have to give him credit. He's like, I'm taking Jokic over Bron. And it was like a couple years ago, we had lunch in Charlotte. And I was
For sure.
I was like, come on, B. Wood, slow down. He's like, why not? And I'm like, okay, he was ahead of the curve. So now we have the most recent bet. If everyone stays healthy, if we do get a Bucks Denver Nuggets finals, I have the Bucks. They're my pick to win it all. I just don't think anyone's going to be able to stop that tandem with Giannis and Dame healthy. Because now Giannis gets to lock in defensively a little bit more. He's my defensive player of the year, spoiler alert. Dame obviously is going to get the easiest looks he's gotten in a long time, now that he has someone that's the center focus like Giannis. And then their games just completely complement each other in the pick and roll. Dame's obviously a perimeter player. Giannis is in the paint. You have Chris Middleton, who's your third option. And a lot of the time, a championship team is defined by their third option. You have Brook Lopez in the corner. So it's just, as long as everyone stays healthy, I don't see Milwaukee being stopped. But I say all this to say, I posted this on TikTok, and I wanted to ask you this question. LeBron and Kevin Durant were kind of like the rivalry for a long time. And most people say LeBron is arguably the greatest of all time, but LeBron was the best guy. But then when Kevin Durant was starting to beat him with Golden State, you kind of had that question. I think Jokic and Giannis is a greater rivalry than LeBron and Durant because you can make the case for either one. Because back then, LeBron was number one. Most would say that. You could say right now Jokic is the best player in the world, and I can't argue that. They both have led a team to a championship. They both have 2 MVPs. And you could say Jokic is more skilled, but Giannis is better defensively. So where one lacks, the other is better. So right now, do you feel like it's a race to who's the best player in the world too?
I don't think those guys, and keep this in context, I don't think they've won enough to have the hype around that discussion. Because right now we can still look at KD, say he's more decorated. We can still look at Kawhi Leonard, say he's more decorated. We clearly can look at LeBron James and say he's more decorated.
Yeah.
Now, we can also argue they're not the same. They're past their primes. They're not the same players that they were. But in those terms, it's hard to glue in on those guys. And I think what people forget about LeBron and even like a KD, he had a stranglehold over being the best player on the planet for what we say? Can we argue 15 years?
Yeah, you honestly, 17. You can make that case.
And some. This may be the first year in a long time you maybe can say, he's not going to bring it to the same. But I think any night we do have this feel because we've seen this for so long. You can argue he's the best player in the world. So I think what still stunts them is that those guys are around.
Still really good.
Right? And they're still really good. That is the tough thing, not to take anything away from them. So whenever we do those top 5 lists, that's why it gets so weird. Because you're going to leave LeBron off your top 5, and it's never going to feel right because we become so accustomed to. You're not going to leave KD off your top 5,
and they did.
And if Kawhi's healthy, he's going to outplay one of those guys. Yeah. If Kawhi's healthy, you got him beat on the floor. Who was the MVP last year? He going to be the guy making the more of an impact. That's what's so scary.
Yeah. No, the top, when I saw ESPN drop their list, I think they ranked 50. I don't know how many it goes up to. It may even be 100. But I remember the top 10, and I got it in order in my head too, but I remember they didn't have LeBron in the top 5. They didn't have KD in the top 5. Embiid was in the top 5. But I was just thinking to myself, I'm like, no LeBron or KD in the top 5 doesn't even seem right. Kawhi wasn't even in the top 10.
You got a lot of guys who can take that jump. when you look at NFL, I know you like this. There's a number of quarterbacks, Daniel Jones, Herbert over in San Diego, Fields we expected. Did you say, hey man, this is the year for them to take a jump? So one of these guys that we're knocking off, LeBron or whoever from the top, like they gotta win. So now it's gonna just come to answer to these questions of all this parity, all these great, like Luka, like you gotta compete in the NBA Finals. You gotta come out the West. Like you know what I'm saying? Like
that's the expectation now. You get ranked number 4, all like greatest player in the world.
For sure. But somehow Steph Curry found his way right back there in the mix. You know, a lot of these guys are getting in the mix. You know, the year prior, they would, like, somehow Curry wins another championship. You're like, this was supposed to be John Morant's time. You know, like, so before we really crown one of those guys,
that's a great point.
We got to get that. And that's the toughest thing because we like, nah, this night, you better than him. You better than him. You got it. You are that.
Yeah, before we're quick to write off the older chapter, you got to let them finish writing their stories. Because if Braun gets a 5th, if Curry gets a 5th, that's changes legacies.
It's a lot of button heads right now, and you know some of these guys are going to go from potential to results. And I'm not saying they haven't had results. Don't quote me, but we're talking. We're trying to put them. We want to put them on a Rushmore. We want to do that. So I think a lot of times too people get offended. They don't think, oh, he's great. He's this. No. We're not questioning these are great players. It's when you're comparing. Now when you're comparing oranges to oranges, you got to nitpick. You got to look for the little imperfections. You got to weigh each of them. Like you start getting very minute in details to be able to knock somebody off your top 5 or top 10 or your championship let's watch list, you know.
Yeah, whenever you compare the greats, we're always fine-tooth comb. Well, he didn't score as many points this game, or he didn't average many this year, because when you're that great, it's like inches. It's a game of inches for
Absolutely.
Sure.
Once again, this podcast is brought to you by Foodie by Nature. The beautiful people from Foodie by Nature did a great job at creating a really healthy product that tastes good. There's 8 different flavors. You won't want to miss it. You could put it in your smoothie. You could take a spoonful, but it's all natural, all essential vitamins and minerals that you can just get right into your body. Foodie by Nature.
Before we get into your Houston Rockets and just get a full breakdown of that, I have a player. So I have a couple favorite players now. I'm a little biased. So Colin Sexton, that's my guy. I root for him. A couple Orlando Magic players. Of course, I'm a LeBron guy. But there's one player in particular that I just keep finding myself gravitating towards. It's not just because of how good he is. I just love his approach to the game, and that's Anthony Edwards. And I think he gained a lot of popularity through FIBA basketball. And I think most people knew how good he was, but I think that globally kind of just had people open their eyes like, oh my gosh, like he could be the man. I think ESPN ranked him 13th back to the lists. So I think a lot of people are starting to realize that. I truly believe he's the next guy. Like Victor, I believe, is the generational guy. I think Anthony Edwards is right there. And he reminds me, he plays, and I've heard this comparison, he plays like MJ a little bit. He's got a little Kawhi in him. He plays defense. He's got that old school mentality. He's explosive. Is Anthony Edwards that guy to you? Or is there a young player who you feel is kind of separating himself from the pack a little bit?
Man, he's right there. I think that his draft mate is the challenge is LaMelo Ball.
Really?
Because of the effect that LaMelo has on his team. I think we just saw LaMelo wasn't healthy. I think Anthony can take that next step. I think LaMelo has a higher IQ. He knows how to win. He gets his teammates more involved. But Anthony Edwards does have that like it factor, like, hey, put the basketball in his hands. Like that is, in my mind, the respect that's there. So I think those two rival each other. And in the future, they stay healthy. We'll be seeing them compete on a championship and playoff level. But, until you see that, it's hard to, grade them. And I think the reason you're seeing Ant look like he's ready to take that next step, it wasn't just FIBA. He got a taste of playoff basketball. Wow. The first time you see the playoffs, the energy in the building, the way these other teams scout you, that veteran that you thought was trash, all of a sudden he's playing like he's 19 years old again. Yeah, he's hooping. Those are the things that excite me about Anthony Edwards. He got a taste of the winning. He got a taste of what it's like. So I think it's a two-man race for the young boys of who is up next. They're knocking on the door. I will say that.
I like LaMelo a lot. So when I say this, it's no shade at LaMelo because I do believe he is that guy as well. I believe in his talent. I think the Hornets were right to...
Shade alert. Go ahead, spit it out, man.
I think Anthony Edwards has separated himself. I really do. I think his approach to the game, he's got that dog in him. Like, you can't teach that. Like, I know every game Anthony Edwards plays, he wants to play the best. I know he's not sitting out. I know he's not scared of any matchups. He lives up to the moment. And you can kind of live with those results. If you don't hit the game winner, I like your approach to you. You were confident in yourself to take that. And I just think he's more aggressive. And with that, I believe he's separated himself. And you said availability definitely plays a part in that. LaMelo was injured. But I think we have enough data where I feel confident in saying I don't think it's a two-man race anymore.
If you're going to talk about confidence, that boy LaMelo,
he is confident.
Little brother, may be the most confident in the league, I will say. But you're right. He's got to show us that he's healthy. You know, that's what he's got to do. That's like probably the big question there from his standpoint. But the biggest thing for him is just LaMelo being healthy. There's no question.
The best ability.
Yeah. But and look, man, Ant's gonna make strides. It's undeniable. He's gonna make strides for playing FIBA basketball and get a playoff experience.
Can he do something that Minnesota's never experienced? Because you got to think about it. Even prime KG didn't necessarily. I know winning is so hard, so I don't want to be like championship or bust every time we think of this. But prime KG didn't win a championship there, and he's one of the greatest power forwards of all time. So is it realistic or is it okay to expect Anthony Edwards to win a championship in a place that no one's ever won?
They have to make a lot of changes. I think they have just chemistry fits. I think they're doing the best with what they have. He is a player, maybe they guys that want to play with, but they got to figure out year in and year out. We keep hearing about Karl Anthony Towns being traded or being there and not being there, or Rudy fitting with Karl. Like whatever that is, either y'all got to just make it work or y'all got to move on. But I think when we talk about championship, once those pieces fall in alignment, I think it would be fair to have those talks. But right now, it's hard to, jump into those talks.
The last player I really want to highlight and focus on before we talk about your Rockets to finish off is Jason Tatum. So I think you get stages with players. One, it's like you got to prove how good you are, right? This guy's really talented. You get your stats, you get your individual accolades, you get that big payday, and then you kind of merge into championship expectation, and then you get into your business stage, you retire. Jason Tatum, I feel like we already know how talented he is. He has his stats, even though he doesn't have an MVP. I don't think an MVP, now don't get me wrong, having an MVP certainly helps your case for being an all-timer, but I think we already know he's an MVP type of player. It seems like he's kind of merged into that championship expectation now, considering how good the pieces around him are and the expectations Boston has, how close they've been. They've been to a finals. You kept Jaylen Brown. Now you add Drew Holiday. Is the expectation fair for Jason Tatum? Should it be, okay, hey, you're the guy, you have everything you have, we're demanding a championship out of you now?
I don't think it's fair to demand a championship, but I feel the fair expectation for Jason Tatum is to either make it back to the finals or be in the Eastern Conference Finals, and like if somebody beats you, they were stellar, there was an injury, like you're right there. So I think like there's excusable, I don't want to say that anything's inexcusable, but I think if we're going to put him where we want to put him, he's gone from a guy that was just potential, and I think he's achieved what you expect him to be. I think he has to be in a race, and I feel like, he has a chance to separate himself, because you can look at the success that Boston had when they got over the hurdle. It was Coach Udoka. Those were good players, but he got them. So are you going to be the constant in the equation in Boston? Is it going to be Brad, Ime, Marcus, or is it going to be you? Yeah. Better yet, so I think for him, that's that step. Like
this is me
and Jaylen did this. Okay, like that's where I think the expectation for him can lie. But I mean, I think he's answered every question. We just want to put him in the orange debate, right? That's what we want, right? We talked earlier, right? We want to put him. Yeah, we want to throw him with LeBron, with KD. We want to throw him there. So I think that's the only question. But I think he is what he should be. All-star, all that. That's a bad man right there. I don't think there's any questions with his game. I think now we want to I guess like a championship would just certify him his body of work even more.
For sure. But now it's time. Let's get into your Houston Rockets. He talked about coach. You got Fred VanVleet, who's one of the best, most underrated players in the league. You have Jalen Green. You got Jabari Smith. So you have like this really cool blend of some veteran pieces. You got Dylan Brooks. And then now you also have a lot of young core pieces. What are your expectations for Houston this season? Kind of like what's the key ingredient for them to have some success? Is there anything that you're looking for from your lens?
I think shoring up the defense will say a lot. There's not a lot of teams that defend. Not a lot of teams want to take away every inch of the floor. And I think Ime is bringing that mindset in culture. Defense travels. When you don't hit shots, you can win those ugly games. And if you can win ugly games in today's NBA, shoot, you can find a way to defend the three ball and the spacing and the speed of the game in today's NBA. You're going to give yourself a chance. While everybody's zigging, you can zag. Okay, you look at Orlando, you look at Cleveland. Everybody got small. They went big, and they've had success through it. So I think you got to find necessarily what's different now in today's NBA. I don't feel like anybody necessarily knows this is how you win. Before it was the center position when I played in the NBA. It was the power forward position. We had dominance at the power forward position.
You played against some people.
Yes, but now today's NBA, I think that things are still open. Where Golden State said go really small, now it seems like everybody's getting taller and then being more versatile. First it was like the 6'8" big guy that everybody's going 6'8" and athletic. Now they're like 7 feet and athletic. So I think just finding out what the playing style is going to be, and I think for Ime the difference is going to be defense, and I think for Houston is going to be their depth, and then I think the big question mark in Houston, if we're going to talk about like winning, right? Like the team's going to get better by default, no questions asked. One of our young guys takes that step, and I'm not sure. Sometimes it just happens overnight. Like, hey, he's one of the guys, right?
Just see it.
We have a number of guys that can be the guy. Like Jalen Green could take hey, don't forget my name next step.
I was about to ask, how good can he really be?
I think the ceiling, with all due respect.
Oh.
No. Because I know sometimes people take this out of context. Some people see it as high as like I don't think it's fair to say a Kobe Bryant. I don't think it's fair because you got to win. You got to be the sleepless nights, the 5 a.m. in the gym at the park. Like you got to do all those things. But I think it's a very, very high expectation of just being unguardable, because of his athleticism, the way he can shoot, the way he pops around on the perimeter, or just like right now, I think like he's a bona fide 20, 30-point scorer. You know what I'm saying? And I think you just win within it.
He reminds me of T-Mac a little bit.
A guy that I think a lot of people slept on, that was a really good scorer when he had his time, is Kevin Martin. Kevin Martin was a bucket, dropping 50 balls. Dropping 50 pieces. That Kevin Martin had a little sidestep jumper, and the way he wound it up was straight into a shot fake go. Like you literally couldn't guard him, or like you literally couldn't guard him. If he was back, it was shot fake go or shot fake, jumper. So
that's a really good one.
I say that in the sense of, to me, that's the lower echelon or tier of what Jalen could be. Because to me, just knowing that Jalen gave 50 points, that is huge right now. And I think it's just pieces spinning around him. And that's why I love Fred being there. Because Fred's he's good enough. He's wanting to say, this is how you do it, young fella. This is like so this. Smart. I'm going to get you the basketball here. We're going to grow here. I'm going to simplify what you have to do.
Yeah, and that's why I think it makes so much sense. Because often when you kind of mix veterans with young guys, it seems like people think you either have to be all young rebuild or a win now mode. It's like, no, it's okay to have a blend, because having those veterans is crucial for young players' development. So like having a guy like you just said, like Fred, to just what it's like to be a pro, like what it's like to just your approach every game. Like that's what separates great from good.
What you just mentioned was a lost art. So San Antonio created their dominance because as they had Tim and at Manu and Tony and those guys, later in their career, they took less money. I think Golden State's the closest thing that we see today. Like, it doesn't have to be a rebuild. It doesn't have to be a championship where you tool up. and then those younger guys complement the older guys, and they're not playing major minutes. I think finally, for the first time ever, I think the Lakers are doing that, where LeBron's going to be on his minutes restriction. We just saw that. And then you're going to lean on a Hachi Mura and you know, Austin Reeves and D'Angelo Russell and those guys. So it's that middle ground of one of you guys take that next step. So yes, that is the way the NBA used to be. I think San Antonio was the epitome of that. Hey, Kawhi Leonard, come along. We're going to groom you and set you up to sit in that seat while these other guys are still, you know, really, really good ball players.
Yeah, that's why I'm so intrigued with this season. I can't wait. We're obviously going to be at every game. We're going to try to do as much as we can. So before I let you go, for one, we appreciate you so much. I know you're a man with a plan. You got a lot going on. So that being said, can you please tell the people where they can find you, the stuff that you have coming up, where they can find your content? The floor is yours.
I appreciate it, brother. First and foremost, Houston Rockets games, check us out. And tune in on NBA TV. Tune into the Rockets channel. Shoot me a tweet, whatever it is. At the Ryan Hollins on Instagram, easy to find. And go out and support NBA Rookie Life Podcast. Give me a like. It takes 5 seconds to do a like. Just like it. Subscribe. That's all. iHeart, YouTube, all your podcast platforms. Man, that's about it, man. But I appreciate it, Max. You know, I'm trying to do any and everything, you know. But those are definitely the main things that come and show some love, show support, comment on the page, just say, hey, great job. You know, we always hear from the trolls. We need to hear more positivity. I think that's a big thing, because there's a lot of positive people that rock with us. You know.
That's the message. If you take anything away from this episode, just show some love and appreciation to your friends. I think a lot of people don't do that enough. We take it for granted. Yeah. But I always try to, like, the first thing I do is, I know we're wrapping this up, is just to say, hey, I appreciate you. Or, hey, support your friends. So I think we take that for granted. Like, I know you're grinding. So, like, when I wake up and I'm going on Instagram or whatever the case may be, like, oh, I know I'm going to see Ryan's content. But sometimes you have to remind yourself, he's grinding. Like, just let him know I see what you're doing and you're doing great. So I really appreciate it. As always, I know we got the game tonight. So, my man, thank you. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast. Great. Like you said, it takes 5 seconds. Max Van Auken on YouTube. My boy Cut That behind the camera, creative director. Until next time, guys, stay tuned.